I'm Marie Hewartson, a potter from Brisbane, Australia. I've been a potter for many years and a TAFE teacher and education department teacher in New Zealand. I've only been into bonsai pots for about 9 years, and the reason I went into them was I wanted pots that would be different for my trees. So that's how I've become a bonsai potter. This is not an in-depth video, but it will show you the many ways, and that's because of the time restrictions. Will show you many ways of making pots, from mass production to hand pots, wheel pots that a potter would make. This is showing you a mass production type pottery that you would buy, the cheapest form of a bonsai pot that you would probably buy very cheaply in a hardware store. I'm doing it as a simple piece here, but it's factory produced and it's poured out by the thousands. So what happens is the clay, liquid clay, is poured into the mould. It is let sit until the mould absorbs the clay and you get your pot. This one has been sitting for a while. Tipped out, and you can see it's left a covering on the plaster. These are the sort of pots that would come out of a slip cast mould. Pretty wonky, and I wouldn't say the best quality, and that's why they're the cheapest of all pots. What I'm going to do next is different. It's making a pot in a mould. This pot, I've made a very rough mould. A friend lent me her pot, which was an imported pot. I made a very quick mould because it's for educational purposes and I won't be selling anything from it. So this is just to give you an idea of how some other moulds, other pots are made. They can be mass produced or they can be done by hand. If they're done by hand, that's what I'm going to demonstrate. But if they're mass produced, they're going to be pushed down in pressure by the thousands, and they go out all over the world. So there's no individuality in them whatsoever. I've already put a base in, cut some pieces. This is only very rough, as I said, because we have so much to get through. Cut at an angle so it will overlap and join. I am just bunging it together because, as I said, it's not being kept and the time is so important. So you can see the makings of a pot. And we'll leave it at that because, as I said, this is absolutely not going to be sold. It's to show you how the pot is made. Made this too short. You can see I don't do these too often. At all, in fact. It's purely for education purposes I'm showing you this. From here, some sort of a mould, a shape, and it produces the edge. And I won't continue any further on that because here is a finished product. It shows the little edge that this created. Yep, that way. That way. There's a spinning round. And okay, pot, but it's not my type of pot. Now we're going to work into the pots that a potter would make. In my teaching days, the very first thing that my students ever learnt was a pinch pot. You felt the clay and you could create many, many pots out of it. I won't continue this to make it a full pot, but I have a little example there of an accent pot that is a little shell, little clam. This is a far more advanced stage of a pinch pot. It is a pot that I learnt to do this technique in New Zealand many, many years ago, and I converted it to bonsai pots. It's perfect for a rough bark tree like a banksia. And which is the same technique as a pinch pot, except I'm not squeezing, I'm just pushing. After about another 15 minutes of playing and shaping, this pot will look like that. It's now got its feet on. You can make them as individual as you like. And this is the finished product. So it is nicely broken and just plain little feet. I tend to put plain feet on pots that have some sort of texture or work on them to get the balance. The second thing that I would teach is coil pots. Coil pots, squeeze it out and then roll. There are machines, extruders that a large clump of clay is put into the extruder and it is forced out, and you have very easily miles of coils. Again, it's only a technique that I use now and again, so I'm afraid I roll. This is something that we all learnt at school. In our art classes. And I'm not going to go any further with that because you've got the idea of what a coil pot is. It's a pot that, if you don't want to work on the wheel or can't work on the wheel, is a way of making another pot. And they can be big, they can be tall, round. I'll show you a couple of things that have been made by the coil method. This is one of the pots where you have the tree and the pond. So this has got white slip on it, because when it is glazed, it'll be glazed in blue, maybe a little bit of glass coloured in there to represent the water. This big pot here is one of my pots that is called caves. It was done with a slab, then all of this was built up with coil. So coils have got a use, they definitely have. The next pot I'm going to show you is a stretched clay pot. This is the sort of thing I'm talking about, where you stretch the clay and turn it into a pot. It breaks and you can get all sorts of different effects. You can turn it into something like a moon pot, or a very advanced one is a tray like that. So let's get started with the actual process. Put a design into your clay, and nice and thick, and slap it. So now you've got something that's very individual. These will all be one-off pots. This one was made yesterday, a little bit harder. You would have a base of clay and then shape it to whatever you want. Adding, we'll go that way, adding pieces to make the size and shape that you want. There's a lot more work that if I was going to keep this, there is a lot more work to be done. It's not a 5-minute job, but it's very, very individual. What I'm making this time is a slab pot for a cascade, or shorter one would be a semi-cascade. And it's a construction method. Being me, I can't have it plain. I have a textured front on it, the rest of it will be plain. So the slab is rolled out. I have a template cut to size for my pieces, chamfered, roughened, and then joined. Slab pots like this are quite time consuming, and they're reflected in the price of a pot. I'm doing this very quickly. It will be finished. Quite a bit of extra time spent on finishing it, including reinforcing the seams. Look. Sit. Other people do it differently to the way I'm doing it, and saying it's not the same. I'm saying that it's not my way or the highway. It's a way of doing it. Ooh. These slabs have been rolled out by hand. I don't have a slab roller. I'm afraid very much a grassroots potter. And quite happy to be that way because it's very hands-on. Now normally I would be leaving this to strengthen before putting it together. So let's hope. And I don't think it's going to work. We'll have to do it slightly differently. Dare I lift it up? Semi-finished. It'll be reinforced. It will get a little bit solid first. Reinforced, then the base put in. So that's... And that one. A different slab pot. I'm not going to be making anything that looks like it's come out of a factory or other people have got. I want individual pots. So this would be scored just as I did here, moistened, put onto the base, which will also have been scored with a scratcher, and let to settle. Then when it's a little bit firmer, this is cut off, turned over and feet attached. And a finished, not fired, but finished pot is that one, which again is not quite finished yet, ready for the kiln. I like my pots to be very clean. We're now going to make a wheel pot, actually two different wheel pots. This will be a literati pot. What I'm doing here is not only centering the pot or the lump of clay, but doming and combing. It gets rid of the air bubbles, it lubricates the clay so all the little particles that are in the clay will work better. Now I'm raising the wall. Working on the wheel takes a little bit of time to master, but if you do master it, it's fantastic. You can make anything. that is the beginnings of my literati pot. It will be carved away later on the other wheel, which I'll show you shortly, on one that's been made previously, by the way. I have a different pot this time. Everybody is mad keen on sodium silicate work, where you stretch it and get different designs. So I've pre-made this pot for you, and I'll put my design in, then I'll stretch it. The video will get turned off while I'm drying it with the blowgun, because it's downright boring. I'll dry it off a fraction before I add the sodium silicate. And cut. Okay. There are many videos describing this technique. Up to you how you look at the videos and decide what you like and what you don't like. Okay, now I'm going to dry it, and this is where we'll turn the video off for a short while because it's downright boring. Now it's firmer, I can do something with it. You have to do this one-handed. We don't want a round pot like this for bonsai. You can never get the tree out, so I'm now widening it. Can you see the crackle? And they become quite individual pots. Not every pot that you make on the wheel needs to be round. It can be made and altered. This one here is one of my signature pots, and I'll show you how I make it. So it's done yesterday and it's now firmed up. And as you can see, it's round. It's gently eased into the oval shape. From there, it will have a base attached and feet attached. Dried very slowly, and that's the finished product. I do these pots in a variety of ways because I don't mass produce, so I want everyone to be a little bit different. Another way of altering pots, or another shape, this is very soft, so it could be left like that, or it could be changed. Can be rounded or made more square. One that was made earlier is this little baby, which, as you can see, was the same. Shaping it, bowing it a little bit, and then giving it a simple decoration. Base and feet. Some finished pieces. Quite a robust pot, I like. And see the shape. Now, this was a round pot, but changed to a square round. So there's many ways you can alter something on the wheel. I made the literati pot previously, but it needs to be turned, so you've got a nice foot. It's a plain pot, but you need a nice foot to raise it up. So what I'm doing now is turning. So I've got my basic shape now. Some of this weight had to go. If I'd have tried to turn that other one, it would have just flopped. Got a bit of a bump in this. It's where I've thrown it down on the bat to make it. There's been a small airspace, but it's not a worry. When I come to take the feet out, make the feet, I'll just carve that piece out. Got no fingerprints, I'd be a good safe cracker. You got the idea of the pot. The feet are cut out. I will be spending at least another half hour or so on this to perfect it. It will have 2 large holes, 2 sets of tie holes. Then it will be fired twice, and the effect that I want to get on this pot is this ash look, which I think is rather nice. You have seen a variety of pots made here today, from mass production type techniques to what a potter does, a trained potter, all the individual techniques, and it should reflect in your pricing of your pot. Whether something's a mass production thing, individual, made to order, it all takes time, and therefore there is a difference between a hardware shop and a special pot. My suggestion is, if you're just starting your bonsai journey, start off with those inexpensive pots, and then when you've got a tree that's worthy of exhibiting, look for something better. Look for someone who has the skills to produce a pot that will enhance your tree.